Hey guys, TotalXclipse here today with a quick starter guide to play Morgana. So there are a lot of good Morgana guides out there, but there aren't many that I can see for Season 5, so I thought I'd give my input and hopefully help you guys out. Now this guide will be primarily aimed at AP mid Morgana, although most of the tips you can transfer to Morgana in a support role. Jumping straight in, Morgana's passive is Soul Siphon, which gives great sustain for her in lane, allowing her to heal 10%, 15% at level 12 and 20% at level 18. And this can be stacked with items such as Will of the Ancients and Hextech Gunblade. Morgana is the queen of crowd control, and that's where her strength really lies. Her Q is Dark Binding, which roots the first enemy hit for between 2 and 3 seconds depending on the skill level, and allows you to engage and disengage on your terms. This is also her best escape when being ganked, although it can be more useful to use it last minute to root someone under the tower, securing you a free kill. Under most circumstances, it is best to take your Q first, although as support it may be a better option to take shield first if you're playing against a grabbed skill opponent such as Blitz or Thresh. Morgana's W is Tormented Soil, which makes her incredibly strong at pushing lanes. At rank 3 with a couple of AP items, she is able to clear entire waves with ease, allowing her to roam other lanes and secure ganks for your team. This skill, along with her Q, is Morgana's staple combo for doing large amounts of damage against an opponent. It's also important to note that damage does scale with the less health an enemy has, but it does consume a lot of mana. Now, Morgana's E, Black Shield, is one of the most powerful skills in League of Legends. If you can use your E effectively, it can turn the tide in a teamfight. The skill shields Morgana or her chosen ally from all disables and a large portion of AP damage. This skill will stop enemy grabs, snares and CC ultimates in their tracks. This means you can save your ADC from that pesky Blitzcrank in a teamfight, or running through Jinx's chompers to secure a gank in bot lane. I highly recommend that you have this skill on an auto self-cast for quick response in lane. However, this skill does not stop AD damage at all, so using it on champions that are AD with no CC ability is useless. Now, if you are playing a support role, this is yours and your ADC's best friend. Make sure you know how to use it, guys. Morgana's ultimate is Soul Shackles and can be a real game changer providing your team capitalizes on it. Now, when in range of an enemy champion, you can use your ultimate, which automatically shackles all enemies within a radius. The shackles do initial damage as they latch onto the enemy, as well as slows the enemy by 20% and grants true sight of the enemies that are shackled. And after 3 seconds, the champions who are still shackled will be stunned for 1.5 seconds. And then take the same magic damage as before. Now this can lock down a whole entire enemy team and cannot be stopped unless Morgana is killed first or if the enemy escapes, which quite often ends in a couple of enemies flashing away, which is still a good thing. Morgana's ultimate can also inform you whether there's an enemy in the bush, as the icon will light up whenever an enemy is in range, which can be useful if you're suspecting a gank. Now, to add survivability when using your ultimate, I always recommend grabbing Zhonya's Hourglass. The shackles continue during your active invulnerability, and if you time it right, the enemy will be stunned immediately after Zhonya wears off. Just remember to count 2 seconds before you actually pop hit. So there are 2 main skill combinations that you're going to be using as Morgana. Now the first one is for when you're in lane or just poking enemies, using your Q to lock down an enemy and then W for damaging them. If you're against a melee champion, also use your auto attacks, although it is important to note that your snare is just a root and they can attack you back. So if you're going against someone like Darius, he can pull you back towards him and then attack you. In team fights, or if you're going all in, I recommend popping your ult first, followed by Black Shield if you're expecting to be CC'd, then follow it up with your W, ideally a second before they're stunned, and a Q to finish off a high value target or to help you disengage. During laning phase, as with all champions, it is vitally important that you farm as much as possible, and farming with Morgana early game can be difficult due to her low damage, and using Tormented Sword before it's rank 3 can actually make last hitting more difficult. If you think about it, it does a huge amount of damage, gets the minions down to their very last health, but the other minions will finish them off as you're trying to get the last hits. So you do have to use it wisely. Now, once your Tormented Soul is at rank 3, you can push the lane, and you can push it quite aggressively, which will then allow you to roam top or bottom depending on which lane is pushed. Just be careful when you are doing that you're not getting followed by the other mid laner. If your lane rival chooses to engage against you when you're level 6, if it's melee champion and he comes in within range and you know he's going all in, pop your ult first, then I recommend going for your Q and your W. Ideally you want to place the W first and then the Q to get the most damage output, followed by your ignite. Or if you want to engage, your best bet's going to be to use Q to root them and then go in with your W and your ult at the same time, followed by an ignite, and just go straight up towards them and take them out. A useful strategy to employ when pushing a lane is trapping the enemy in between their turret and jungle. It's easy to connect the snare to the target and can do some serious damage under their turret, reducing their ability to farm effectively. And if they repeat the mistake, make them pay for it. Once you get used to using Morgana's Q hitbox, consider using autocast. It will speed up your response time and make you a much more dangerous opponent, but don't rush it. Autocasting can be difficult at first, and it can take a lot of practice to get used to it. Late game and team fights, you want to try to secure blue buff as often as possible. Morgana's very mana hungry and the extra cooldown can also be very useful. Also focus the high damage champions first, namely the ADC or the APC, as well as any champions that can turn a team fight. If you are going to contest a Baron or Drake, I recommend flashing to the center of the enemy team and popping your ult if you can. If you can, don't pop your Zhonya until after the first 1.5 seconds, as the enemy team might try to escape and an early Zhonya can be a wasted ultimate or worse, get you killed. Now if you do have any questions guys about how to approach fighting a certain champion with Morgana, if you're having certain problems, I used to really struggle against Zed, I still struggle quite a lot against Yasuo. Just ask me, I'll give you any tips that I can. Also, if you are liking the video, please like, of course. If you're interested in seeing more, please subscribe, it's really appreciated. And if you want to play a game, just drop me a message, I'm more than happy to. As for your item build, I recommend going Doran's Ring first along with some Total Biscuits of Rejuvenation. You can also go for a ward as well if you're expecting ganks early on. If you're going support, I do recommend Spell Thief. Just poking the enemy to get the gold is much better than the standard few gold every second. When you first go back, regardless of whether you're playing mid or support, you should rush Zhonya's Hourglass. Although if you are playing support, I do recommend upgrading your gold item and probably taking either your wards or your sightstone first. Once you've built your Zhonyas, I do recommend going with Sorcerer Boots and building a Rabadon's Death Cap, just to give you that extra AP and AP penetration. And from there you want to, when you can, get an upgraded trinket. People forget this all the time, but trinkets, guys, really do help. From there on, you should go with items that are most beneficial to your game. Every game's different, your item build should be based around the game, not what you generally go with. So, if you've got an enemy with heavy magic resistance, go with a Void Staff. If you've got a very highly based AP team, go with something like the AP Scepter, the Abyssal Scepter. Riley's is really good for the extra health, especially when you're doing your ult. Or you could go with Athene's Unholy Grail for the extra mana and cooldown, which is always nice. For optimum damage, if you're starting to get a good feed on them, I'd recommend going with the Morellonomicon, can never say that word, or even Luden's Echo. For runes, I've gone with the Greater Quintessence of Ability Power, giving me 15 ability power to start off with. Greater Mark of Hybrid Penetration, to give you that extra amount of damage against those with magic resistance. Greater Seal of Armor, to give you a bit more protection, and Greater Glyph of Scaling cooldown reduction, so that at level 18 you do have a fair bit of cooldown reduction. For masteries, as Morgana, because she has such a high cooldown, what you want is to be able to maximize your damage output when you do go in. So we've gone with 21 in the offense tree, and then 9 in the utility tree, so that we can get out as soon as possible, wait out the cooldown, and then go back in. For your support spells, I would recommend Ignite for the extra burst, as well as Flash for initiation, as well as getting away. Other viable options would be Heal for extra health, Barrier for your ultimate, or also Exhaust for one-on-one fights, or focusing enemy MVPs during team fights. That's all I can really think of off the top of my head for a Morgana guide. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, please hit the like button and drop me some thumbs up. It's really appreciated. And if you do want to see more videos, please subscribe. I'm going to have so many more cool videos coming up.